Happy Wednesday, and what a Wednesday this is going to be. It is time again for the Imperfect Action live stream. If you were wondering what you're watching, that is what you're watching. You are the Imperfect Action, watching the Imperfect Action live stream. Who am I? I am Rob Fenstermaker, former corporate burnout survivor turned kingdom builder. Your kingdom builder. What do I do? You know what? Sometimes we get in that journey of life. Sometimes life is going to happen. Well, not sometimes. It's a guarantee life is going to happen. But what happens sometimes to some people, they get thrown off their path. They get stuck in that rut. They don't know what to do. I help them get out of that rut. I get them into action. I bring clarity to what it is they want to accomplish. I do this in what I call my Soul on Fire program. I've got some things coming up. This Friday is the Virtual Friday Whiskey Hour. So I think that's where you and I might have first connected, is the Virtual Friday Whiskey Hour. Is that correct?
That
I know
is
you attended that.
correct. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
How would you describe the Virtual Friday Whiskey Hour?
Real raw and a lot of fun.
Yes, yes.
It's
Yeah, so stop on
fantastic.
by. Some people have said, I don't like to drink whiskey. There's no requirement to drink whiskey. I just use the term whiskey because whiskey is a hook. People see whiskey like, ooh, I might have to check this out. So stop by and check it out. The conversation is always lively. Next Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock, I have the Iron Sharpens Iron community. That's where we come together and just share with each other to lift each other up, hold each other accountable on what we want to do. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock, I am appearing at the Polarizing Network at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Go ahead, if you're not familiar with that, just type in Polarizing Network on LinkedIn. Go ahead and schedule your register to be at that event, because I am speaking there. I'm going to be talking about the three people you meet at Shawshank. So stop by and check that out. Whoops, let me get that off there again. But no, it is my honor to introduce today's guest, Cindy Gaddis, who is the CEO of Boots to Cyber. Cindy herself has generated over 1 billion in federal IT contracts. She is a certified project management professional, a lifetime member of the National Contractors Management Association and the Association for the U.S. Army, and her expertise is in business development and project management. Goodness. And you're also a U.S. Army veteran. I like that. I'm a U.S. Army veteran as well. Cindy, thank you for agreeing to stop by the Imperfect Action live stream. How are you today?
I am doing pretty good. Teen struggles notwithstanding, motherhood is not an easy job, but yeah,
No.
I'm doing really good. Really good.
Yes. Yes. Motherhood is not an easy, neither's fatherhood. You know what? And, one of the things that I've learned as a father, and you probably have learned this as a mother as well, that at least, what I've learned, and how my wife and I, we raised our two children, and they're both adult children right now. They're doing very well. Is that when they were young, we weren't their best buddy, but how we wanted to raise them is to be quality young adults. And I think we've done pretty good at that, because they're both doing very well. They're both thriving out there in the world. We have, like I said, a daughter and a son, and they're both doing very well, getting life figured out.
Yeah, I think the greatest thing we can do as parents is teach them how to make their own decisions. Like, hey,
Yeah.
whatever it is in life you want to do, you'll figure it out. Just, give yourself some grace and time, and it'll all come together. So I think
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. And
we have
that's cool.
four
Let,
children
let them
all
look.
together. Yeah.
Four children. Okay. I just have two. Yeah. I tried to negotiate a third out of my wife, and she's very clearly said, unless I was carrying it, there was no way on God's green earth we were having a third.
Yeah.
So
Well, my husband said I had this idea of six, probably because my sister had six, and I'm
six.
a very competitive kind of girl. So, like, hey, I want
Oh,
to keep up with my sister. Four was enough, he says. So
four's enough. Well,
that's
you,
what he
you at least got a basketball
said.
team there. You have a basketball team with the children and
Yeah.
yourself.
Right.
So you got a basketball team. So,
There's
but
that.
no, when you get that many, you're definitely in zone defense. So when we had one, it was easy. We went to two. All right, it's man to man. But when you get more than that, you got to play zone defense in raising those children. Um, but yeah, I like what you said. Just let them make their own decisions, because my both my children, they kind of flew the nest at an early age. One at 18 and one at 19, and they embarked on their own journey, and they really haven't looked back. And so my wife and I, we were pretty young empty nesters. But I hear stories of some parents that are families where the children are still at home and parents are wondering, well, are they going to leave or not? Well, you got to start at a young age to kind of inculcate that mindset into them, and
Right, right.
just let them make mistakes. Don't just
Yeah,
let them
yeah.
make mistakes. That's the best thing we can do as parents is let your children make mistakes.
Or help them. And then one of my favorite sayings is fail fast. You'll figure it out faster. And
Yeah,
if
yeah.
failure is the greatest educator, I am by far one of the smartest people you'll ever meet.
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you. If I got paid for every time I failed, I might be rivaling Jeff Bezos for his net worth. But I hear people say, "I've never failed at anything in my life." Okay, you're going to say that to me. There's one of two things that are true: either you're an absolute liar, or you've never tried anything in your life.
Right, right. Yeah. That could be a true statement.
Yeah.
You've gotta try and fail, and it's not
Mhm.
how well you succeed that is the measure, it's how you overcome failure, honestly,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you handle that? You give
Yeah.
up or
Because
you go on?
yeah. Failure is part of success. It's part of
Right,
success. I mean, you got to be willing to try things, and you got to fail. I mean, it's just part of it because failure maybe hardens the right word. I don't know. It makes you tough. And use a sports analogy. I'm sure we've all heard the story of Michael Jordan getting cut from his high school basketball team, and
right.
so that's a failure. But
Exactly.
if he didn't respond to that, or if he just said, "This failure, okay, it wasn't meant to be." And that's what a lot of people do. They fail and they just kind of say, they failed the first time, it wasn't meant to be. If Michael
Right.
Jordan has failed that first time, after getting cut and said, "Oh, it wasn't meant to be," we would never have the GOAT. But there's I'm sure the quote of Teddy Roosevelt about the man in the arena. And we admire that man, not because he's in the arena, but because he's willing to get knocked down, he's willing to get dirty, he's willing to get bloody, but he's also wants to get back up and try again. And that's what learning from failure is all about.
Exactly. Exactly it. Spot on. And even, I think it was, Edison. How many times did he fail to
Yeah,
produce the perfect light bulb until he succeeded,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, "Hey, just
He
don't give
said
up."
his quote was, "I never once failed at making the light bulb, but it did take me 10,000 tries to perfect it." So
Right, right, right. So,
and
success
it's
from
just all
failure.
how it's all the perspective how you put into it, how you that mindset, that mind shift of how you look at it. And you see, like I said, you see a lot of people that they felt. I call it I like to call it the Uncle Rico effect. If you've ever seen the movie Napoleon Dynamite, because
I've heard of
who's
it.
who?
My children have encouraged me to watch it. I could
Oh, well,
not.
you got to watch it. You got to watch it, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Uncle Rico. So he's the old, not old guy, but he's probably in that movie, I guess, represent probably in his 30s, but he is still hanging on to that high school championship football game where the coach pulled him out in the fourth quarter and they didn't win. And so he is just so wrapped around that. That's what it is. And he just sits there and tells himself, they had kept me in, we would have won the championship. We'd have won the championship. We'd have won the championship. And that's what the whole movie, his everything in that movie is about him saying that. But that's not the only thing in the movie. But that's what he keeps going back to. And that's what a lot of people do is that they identify with that failure that they've had. And some almost wear it as a badge of honor.
Right, right. Instead of and kinda get stuck there. It's like let it go and move on, move forward, and take what you learned from that failure and do something better with it, learn from it, grow from it, and, do
Absolutely.
better the next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we can't, the failures are in our past and we can't change our past. Can't change it. It's over. But we can learn from it. And you just got to
Yeah,
learn, the mistakes that you've made. You got to learn how to do better next time. You've got to learn, what you can do to take it to that next level. Which for me is a nice segue here. So, as you've kind of gone through your journey of building boots to cyber, What were some of those failure points that you had that you've been able to determine your own personal successes?
Probably the greatest failure was, I had worked for a company, a defense contractor. I've been a defense contractor for, the better part of the last 20 years. And I had grown this company. I'd given it my all. I had neglected health. I'd gotten up to 235 pounds. I'd neglected my family and my children. I was so insanely focused on doing this one thing perfectly that,
Hmm.
when the company reorged, it was a very traumatic experience to have lost all that I'd poured myself into. I'd given all of myself to this, and
Yeah.
it was very traumatic for me. So I took the first job that was offered after, and experienced some failure in that as well. Um, and by 2019, I said, okay, listen, I'm just going to give my consulting gig a shot, and had set this, okay, if I have 6 clients in 6 months, everything's going to be fine. And I'll be
Hmm.
like, life is good. Well,
Yeah.
month 5 was COVID month. So you can
Yeah.
imagine, with one client training Chinese pilots, another one being a Scrum Master trainer, anybody, any kind of training was gone. So,
Yeah.
and I had a very kind client at Advanced Technological Solutions say, "Hey, you want to come work for us?" And so I did. And
Yeah.
so for a year, things didn't go the way we'd planned, and I experienced some amount of failure in that. And so
Hmm.
I kept looking, okay, there's a perfect company that gets everything about me. They have the same mindset and all of that. And so I set out to find that company, and I truly believed that I found that company, and this company, a defense contractor called Groundswell, and I thought, man, this is it. And it wasn't, right?
Right.
And it was what they wanted to be and what they were not in sync quite yet.
Yeah.
Phenomenal company, mind you, right? And so I kept looking, and even last year I found myself like, okay, I'm gonna support these 5 different companies, doing what I do best. And I had some really good, kind mentors who kind of slapped me around a little bit, like, "What are you doing? You got to focus, right?" And so
Yeah.
as it came down to it, they asked, What do you care the most about? Who are you in terms of what do you want to do and be in life?" And I said, "Well,
Hmm.
I do all this running for veteran suicide awareness. I genuinely care about my brethren. I come from a long line of veterans. I'm really passionate
Yeah.
about this." So I found an organization. Technically, they found me, Boots to Cyber, who was created for the sole purpose of training veterans in cybersecurity. And that sole
Yeah.
purpose was to they could get to keep that mission to continue to defend the nation. So while they lose everything else in their life, they get to hang on to the mission for which the United States government trained them, defend the country, right? And so
Yeah.
that
Right.
purpose and mission was really, really critical. So I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And we aligned ourselves with people who had the same mission to safeguard civilization, and in an area that's not very well known in terms of
Hmm.
industrial control systems and operational technology. And people are a lot like, people are just out there living their lives, doing their thing, and kind of blissfully unaware of the threats and
Yeah.
the dangers that foreign enemies can perpetrate upon our infrastructure, water, electricity. And so for
Yeah.
the last 20 something years, people have been focused on IT cyber. It's like, if your electricity doesn't work, the IT doesn't matter, right? So if you can't get water, nothing matters. So it became a really
True.
big deal and passion. And so that's what
Hmm.
we've been doing for the last few years. But it took a little bit of, um one of my friends was having some a spiritual crisis, and so I flew to Japan, and she says, What happened to you? You were a runner and now here you are, this 235-pound, huge I love that kind of friend, man. A friend who can tell you truth you don't want to hear or face.
Yeah, we do need truth tellers in our life. We all
We
need truth
do, we
tellers.
do, we do. I think the Bible calls it speaking the truth in love. Man, it was not easy to hear. But the
Yeah.
same kind of friend that will fly to Japan for a friend because she needs you, will do a stupid diet she knows jack about because she needs you to. So I did.
Yeah.
I started this diet with her, dropped, like 40 pounds, went to Japan, climbed Mount Fuji, came back and said, okay, I'm going to live up to my promise I made myself to run a marathon before I turn 50. And
Okay.
I did.
Yeah.
I just kept
Very
running.
good.
So, marathon number seven's down. I'm aging. My body's not helping at
Yeah.
all. So,
Yeah.
but it's the failure that says, okay, I didn't succeed here. What did I learn from it? Let me try again.
Yeah.
I didn't succeed
Yeah.
here. What did I learn from it? Let me try again. And I
Well,
think that truly only comes from a singular recognition that and Rob, I told you about this earlier. Like when people recognize they are uniquely created, all of themselves, right?
yeah.
You are a
Yeah.
unique human being. There's nobody else on the planet like you. And just because other people don't get you, you cannot let that stop you. You be you
Yeah.
and the human that God created you to be. Set out to do the best you can every day. And when you fail,
Mhm.
and you will, because you're not perfect, nor am I, the next day's a new day. Try again. Let it
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Just
Yep.
move on. So
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
That's you're kind of speaking my language there because yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, yesterday's over. Tomorrow's not here. Quit worrying about tomorrow because there's no guarantee we're even going to get it tomorrow. But we have this
Yeah,
thing called today, and today's where all our opportunities exist. And I absolutely believe every one of us was created uniquely, and this day is unique. And to me, the perfect example of uniqueness, to kind of go back to the Bible, is the Book of Exodus. And the ancient Israelites, they were held captive in Egypt for one reason, and that was to make bricks. And what's a brick represent? It represents uniformity. Everything's got to look the same. And the world thrives on uniformity, wants everybody to be the same. But when they escaped that the slavery, when they escaped that bondage, the first thing they did is they built an altar of stones. Why stones? Because no stone is like another stone. So every stone is unique. And we're all unique. We're all uniquely created. We all have unique things within us, unique ways in which we can impact the world. Some people might laugh, well, we can change the world. Well, let's think about that for a minute. Maybe we can't change it on a macro level. Maybe we can. We can definitely change our world on a micro level. I can change my world. I can change the world of those I have connection with. And if everybody lived with that mindset that I can change the world, think how much a better place this would be. When clients work with me, that's what I really want to impress upon them is that you have that within you. The uniqueness within you is the ability to change the world, definitely change your world.
yeah,
And
absolutely. And I
yeah,
think what you do is so important, Rob. Like just helping people recognize who they are, who they were created to be, and
yeah,
there's every single unique human. God has put something in to do a thing, and just because this person over here doesn't understand that thing, they don't need to. Right? Like, it's once I got out of the I must be perfect to meet all these other expectations, I was finally able to go, this person or these people didn't create me to be my weird self. God created
yeah,
me to be my weird self for
mhm,
his purpose, and
yeah,
and I desire to live that out, right? So let's not please others. I have to ask myself every day, did I please my God? Was I perfect? Absolutely not. I never will be. Did I try? Absolutely. Did I do my best? You
yeah,
betcha. Right? But
yeah,
but in the process of understanding for all my faults and failures, and he knows them all, I am uniquely made for his purpose to touch lives that nobody else on the planet can touch, just like you, Rob. There's lives
Right.
you will touch that nobody else will ever encounter, and you
Yeah.
might be the only one that can ever tell them some hard truths they couldn't hear
Yeah.
otherwise.
And we'll even have the opportunity to touch lives of people we'll never see. And um, I how I know that is that one of the things I did years ago when I really kind of started embracing the idea of significance is I started a
Right.
small little foundation in which we were building freshwater wells in third world countries. Ethiopia and Myanmar were the two primary countries we were building these at. And I remember the first village that we went into was up in the mountains of Ethiopia, where we built this. And I'm never going to meet these people. But what it was maybe a village of maybe 300 people. I don't know how big it was. But what they would have to do is it was always the young girls. It's usually young girls like 5 or 6 years old. They'd have to take one of these 5-gallon jerry cans, walk down the side of the mountain down to a river, get water, bring it, and haul it back up, and that's the water they had to use for the day. And it's just a river, and who knows what the level of quality of that water is. I'm sure it wasn't good, because I guarantee it was the same river where they probably washed their clothes, washed their animals, and who knows what else was in that water. But us putting um, uh, getting water to there, they now didn't have to do that. There was also a small
Right.
medical clinic there, and that well allowed them to actually have running water into that clinic. So these are people I'm never going to meet, but the actions that we took, 'cause it wasn't me, it was other people, but the actions that we took changed their lives. And we're never going to meet them in this life. Next life, yes, absolutely can meet them there. I'm never going to meet them in this life. But it's just so small. And usually, a lot of times, it's just the small things we can do that can change lives. And we discount those. And we
Consistently
kind of,
small. Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. We
yeah.
we go through, one of the things that we do at Boots to Cyber is, I ask people 2 things. What do you do well? What do you wanna do? Show
Hmm.
up, do your best, right?
Yeah,
Just and that's kind of a psychologically safe place to be. Veterans are
yeah.
not, are all they are not always in the best condition, that you have no idea
No,
what people have gone through, and that's not just
right.
veterans, but anybody. You have no idea what people
Anybody,
are
you're right.
going through. Right.
Right.
Just try to genuinely love people right where they are,
Yeah.
and show them the better way. And people ask me, they're like, "How do you do that?" I said, "Well, when I was in my 20s, I had a road rage, right? And I'm talking like significant emotional instability, right? And I said,
Yeah.
when I got to the point that I began to, and I asked God for this, can you give me the perspective to look at people as you see people? And if you think about him on the cross, being beaten and hated, and the worst things that could possibly happen to a human, and he loved those people doing the very thing. And
Hmm.
so whenever there's a frustration or an anxiety or animosity with anyone, I have that picture in my mind to say,
Hmm.
this is how we are to love other people, right? This
Yeah.
is the model. This is not because they're perfect, because they're not any more than I am, but right where they
Right.
are. And I am utterly convinced that when the Bible says speak the truth in love, they will never ever hear the truth until you can demonstrate that genuine love. And that's what it
Yeah.
takes. Allow
I
people to
agree.
hate you. Allow people to
Yeah.
see you right where you are in your imperfections, and
Yeah.
and allow them to be imperfect as well, because they're not,
Yeah.
right?
Kill it.
And
Kill them
and
with
in, in
kindness.
a
Kill them with kindness.
exactly, exactly.
So,
There's that.
you said road rage. My wife always accuses me of road rage, and I just tell her I don't have road rage because one, when I'm yelling at those people, my blood pressure never goes up, and if they would just start driving as well as I would, there would be no issues.
Right, right, right. I always tell my husband, Dave, they can't hear you. They can't hear you. You are having
But
zero
you know
impact in
what?
their lives.
It just feels good to just let it out. Just kind of let it out. Don't keep it bottled in. You keep
That's
that stuff
right. That's
bottled in
right.
at some point, it's going to pop. So,
Fester and
yeah,
rot. That's right.
That's right. Just let it go. But like I remind her, my blood pressure never goes up. She can accuse me of road rage all she wants, but my blood pressure has never gone up during that. I feel calm, but I'm just, I will I'll say what I got to say. Um, so,
Uh,
so
I
what,
started
when
making
you said you came,
excuses for him, right?
yeah, that's right. That's right. Like I said, they just got to learn how to drive as well as I do, and there'll be no problem. So they would just do that. Living in South Florida, that's got to be one of the worst places to drive because I'm going to tell you right now,
Right.
people do not know how to drive down here. So, but,
Oh, love it,
so you
love
said
it.
you came from a family of veterans. I was in the
Yeah,
army. I did not. I had a
yeah,
grandfather who served in World War II. He actually didn't even get sent to either of the theaters. He was drafted. Um, but that's pretty much it. So you come from a family of veterans. What is it that attracted you to joining the army when you did?
well, despite my legacy of coming from a long line of veterans, and people don't ask this very often, and so and just being real, I had made a really bad decision in my first marriage, and I was trying to escape it, right? Like, let me get out of this. How can I get out of
Yeah,
this? Joining the army seemed like a good way. It worked, just for the record.
it worked.
Maybe not the best strategy,
Yeah,
and a whole lot of lessons to be learned from that as well, but it was effective. So, and then I gained so much more, like so much I hadn't
yeah,
counted on. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I told you I was going to share my army story. So here's how I joined the army. So I was not a bit of a punk. I was a punk when I was 17 years old, and I was a horrible high school student. I was always in trouble for something, and so it was probably 6 weeks before graduation. So we decided we're going to go ahead and skip school. There's a bunch of us, and we think, they're never going to notice we're gone. Well, of course they notice we're gone. So, we get word at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If we don't show up the next day with excuses, we're all going to be expelled for 2 weeks. Okay. So, what do I do? What do I do? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go talk to an army recruiter. So I went to an army recruiter's office and just talked to him and just kind of, picking his brain about, what can I, what's the army life? What is this? And so I agreed at that point. All right, I'll sign up. Now, remind you, I was only 17 years old at that point in time. So I go ahead and sign my name on the dotted line. All right, I'm going to go ahead and list. And he's like, if we do that, he's like, anything else I can do for him? Like, yeah, one more thing. If you could just write me an excuse that says I was with you all day and we were talking about my career options, that would be immense. And he asked why, and I kind of told him. He's like, all right, I can write that for you. So I show up the next day, go back to the office. They're like, okay, all right, we can't do anything. But I saw one more thing. Since I was only 17, I had to have my parents sign off on it. So I come home that night and I'm like, hey, I got to let you know what I did. I joined the army. Like, oh, huh? What? You did what? You joined the army. And yeah, you guys, I need for the two of you to sign off on this form that the recruiter's going to come over here tomorrow night. I need for the two of you to sign off on this form to say you agree to it. And so, I mean, they were just beside themselves. I'm like, well, I do get the GI Bill, and that's going to pay for me to go to college. I'm like, okay, where do I sign? So they, recruiter
Right,
came, they
sold.
signed away. Sold. So yeah, but I learned discipline. I learned, that what it means to be, a part of a team. I've always been, involved in when I was in high school and grade school, I was always involved in team sports. So I got an appreciation for that, but it just kind of enhanced that appreciation. And then, eventually went to college, ended up going to officer candidate school, and was an officer in the National Guard. Did that for whatever as long, and then 2001 happens, and that's when the deployments started coming fast and furious in the Guard. Went on a couple of them, was tracking for a third one. I'm just like, that point, I was at the right rank, and that I could have gotten out, and I had enough years in, and I'm just like, I'm done. I'm done, and turned in my paperwork at that point, and that was it. That was it. So
Call it done. But again, I wouldn't call it a failure. I'd call it a great success.
no, it is, it
Yeah,
is, and so right,
yeah.
and I learned what leadership is, and you definitely learn a lot of that in the army. You learn a lot of that going to officer school because that's just drilled into your head, and you know going through a couple of deployments where I got to be a commander. You learn a lot about yourself there, because soldiers and you are you're separated from families, and you
Yeah.
kind of learn a lot about what your abilities are and what you can do and what you can accomplish. And I like to say I did pretty well. I think I was a success as a commander. I think I did well enough that one of the things that I was most proud of were the amount of soldiers that I had the opportunity to command, that I was able to get promoted by giving them opportunities to shine, to
Right.
do it, to just giving them the opportunity. They wanted it, and I'm like, okay, here's your opportunity. Here's what I need for you to do, and spelled it out, and just kind of got out of the way and see if they could do it. And for the most part, most of them could.
I love that.
Most of them
I love
could.
that.
So
Most people just need an opportunity. That's it.
you just need an opportunity. And you know what another opportunity is? I'm going to share that with you. It's the Virtual Friday Whiskey Hour coming up this Friday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Go ahead and stop on by, join in the festivities, join in the fun, join in the conversation. The last conversation we had 2 Fridays ago was how do we define wealth? And it was an interesting conversation because a lot of times we think of wealth as how many zeros do we have in our bank account, and I don't think that's an accurate reflection of wealth, because
Yeah.
we've seen so many stories of people that have accounts where they've just got a lot of zeros in their bank account, and they're just kind of miserable people. Are they really wealthy? I don't know. I don't know. Don't know. So when you are working with veterans, and a lot of people believe we right now we are in World War III, and that World War III is being fought with ones and zeros.
Right.
And I know my wife's company, they had a ransomware attack about 24 months ago. So I mean, the stuff is real. So when are you do you get in contact with them while they're still in the service, or are they out of the service when they reach out to you? What's the process with that?
So the DoD has a skill bridge program, and any company that has a DoD approved skill bridge program, they're kind of listed as a here's your options for what you want to do in life. And so
Mhm.
they come to us, they say, "Hey, I'm interested in your skill bridge program. Can you tell me more about it?" We tell them more about it. They get their commander's authorization, they submit, and then they start. Our program is a little different because we don't just have the duration of their skill bridge program in mind. We have their entirety of their future career. So where
Right.
most and a lot of companies, they have like, okay, the cohort next cohort begins on this date. We have rolling admissions, so that as the army or any other DoD service member is exiting the service, that looks a little different for everyone, right? So we accommodate their schedule as opposed to asking them to accommodate ours. And that we take them through kind of a self-paced program to say, is cybersecurity for you? Here's all the roles, here's what you can expect, here's your personality. And people ask, they're like, what was your greatest success last year? And I said, the guy that we probably saved $50,000 who decided cybersecurity was not for him, right? He went
Yeah.
off and started his own logistics company, and we're happy to help support and encourage him in any way we need. But we just want to kind of show people here are their different options. My uncle, for whom I was named after, Lee, Philip Lee, he was a Vietnam veteran, and he got out of
Hmm.
the military. He was a farmer, then he became a truck driver, and he ended up dying of a heart attack. And so I want veterans to see, no matter your career, you have the core capabilities that every employer wants: tenacity, discipline, commitment,
Yeah.
teachability, all the things that any employer will want. And so if you choose cybersecurity, this might be better than truck driving or
Yeah.
um, some other low paying job. And there's a great talent shortage in cybersecurity. And they get the
Mhm.
added benefit of continuing the mission for which the government trained them. Continue to defend the nation, just in a different kind of way.
Yeah. So, do most of your graduates, do they uh, start working for the government, or they work for private corporations, or is it kind of a mix?
It,
Or
it's a mix. Right now, people have said, "Well, so you're a staffing agency." I said, "No." I said, we're here to serve them, and the company sustains itself elsewhere, right? Like we're focused on the Dragos mission to safeguard civilization and operational
Yeah.
technologies upon which our nation depends. And so, if they choose to go through Dragos Academy with us, we have the potential to hire and deploy them to help train or install or whatever these critical infrastructure protections, if you will. But if they
Right.
don't, they want to go work for another company. The partners at Boots to Cyber collectively leverage our networks to help them find where they want to be, right? A
Right.
little known fact: military members can't broadly advertise on social media. They are a target and they have to protect themselves. So as they're getting out, networking is the number one way people obtain meaningful employment. And so
Yeah.
rather than them being stunted by that, one of the things that we do as part of our mentorship and skill bridge program is leverage our collective networks to help them. Like, we've been doing this for a really long time. Let us connect you with the right people who may need your skill sets. And if companies choose to donate to our company or to the program, that's fine, but it's not something we're going to monetize and use for our people. We're here to help them facilitate a very good transition. So
Yeah.
back to those dollar
So
signs.
how vulnerable is our network?
Um, you can look up, and it's not just networks. So most people think IT and OT are very much the same, and they're not.
Right.
So operational technologies, think about water, electricity, fuels,
Mhm.
oil, gas pipelines, right?
Mhm.
So there are computer hackers and bad actors who are out there specifically targeting these different industries to disrupt. And
Mhm.
so, because as a nation world, we've been so focused on protecting our information, we've really neglected our critical infrastructure. And I
Yeah.
think just a couple of weeks ago, the White House put out a memo like, "Hey, we really need to be focused on this, right?"
Yeah.
And you can go see movies on Netflix called "Leave the World Behind," profanity
Mhm.
notwithstanding, and there's a couple of psych warfare things that's hard to get, but it's a very real possibility. Or one of my friends, Pete Singer, wrote a book called Burn In. Again, fictional representation of the very real possibilities that could happen.
Mhm.
And people haven't been attuned to or aware of these vulnerabilities. And so Dragos is out to safeguard civilization in a way that people don't even know that they need it. But just think about it:
Yeah.
the power grid goes down because Russia decides to attack it.
Mhm.
IT is not going to matter at all. Forget your
Oh,
information, you won't even have access to it. And
yeah.
we go back to the Stone Age. We had solar flares not too long ago. There was a 10% chance of the solar flares taking out all technology. I mean,
Yeah.
snowball's chance in hell, mind you, but there was a chance, right?
Yeah, there's a
So
chance.
we are extraordinarily dependent upon our technology. So it's very critical. Our nation runs on technologies, operational technology, keeping the and think sensors, right? You push a button in the elevator and it goes up.
Yeah.
There's sensors monitoring the status of the water, the chemical composition, all the things, the power grid. All of these things are just phenomenally huge, and not a lot of people are aware of it.
Yeah. Well, it was like what, 4 years ago, 3 years ago when the whole power grid in Texas went down because they're on a
Yeah,
completely different grid.
yeah.
And it
But
just
that
kind
was
of
just
coincided it
that's due to
coincided with some,
weather,
like, really
right?
bad weather. Yeah, it was weather related. They had some really bad ice storms and, oops, everything kinda went down and kinda set everything haywire. And you talked about those solar flares. I mean, I don't the the northern lights that are kinda going all over, right now. Yeah, those are massive solar flares, and, I mean,
Right.
I I've read stuff that, yeah, that was the right whatever level, it could take everything out, but if one of these bad actors wants to take down this country, all they have to do is to attack our grid. That's it. And
That's
I don't know
it.
how long it
That's
would
it.
take to get back up. It's not going to be like 24 hours. We're looking at probably weeks, if not months. And if you have
Yeah.
an entire country without electricity, you're right. We go back to the Stone Age, and who knows how many people survived that? It's scary to even think.
And it's
I mean,
now I'm kind of in a cool place. I live in a cabin in the woods in central Arkansas, right? I got cows in the yard, fish in the pond. We'll probably be okay. People in DC, maybe
yeah,
not, and it
yeah,
doesn't even have to be that big. Think about it from like smaller. So Dragos has done a phenomenal job of creating a platform that's the only one on the planet that is threat intelligence driven. They have people around the globe chasing, hunting, and monitoring these bad actors and then codifying what they learn into the system. So there's technologies to make the protections possible and
hmm,
just getting them into the hands of our most critical crown jewels, if you will, to protect them is really the important thing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's a great mission. And then uh, when somebody comes to you and they've got through your program, and they get that first position. Is this usually their first job out of the military? Their first real job out of the
Yes.
military?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. As they're going through the program, they get to learn a little bit about, when you're in the military, you're just go, right? You're not a lot of reflective. You do what you're told to do. You don't get to think a whole
Just
lot for
act.
yourself. So
Right.
we're kind of serving as a forcing function to say, okay, who are you as a human? Like if you're an introvert, then sitting behind a computer all day with nobody to talk to might be a good role for you. So a cyber
Yeah.
role in that has that would be good. If you're an extrovert, that would be a pain worse than death. Maybe you find a different cyber role that has you customer facing, right? So it really
Yeah.
takes them as a human, says, who are you? What would be best suited for you from all of these? And here's the potential pathways you can go down, right?
Yeah.
And putting them through our Dragos Academy is just one, right? And then there's so many others with CompTIA, EC Council, all those certifying bodies that we've partnered with to ensure if they want to do something else, they have a way to get the cyber certifications that they need.
Okay. And so if people are interested, there's the website, bootstocyber.com. And if they want to reach out to you direct, just they can email you direct with any questions. Okay.
Yes,
Cool.
absolutely.
Cool. So, I got to ask, 7 marathons. 7 marathons. Is eight in the future?
Yes, actually, I canceled marathon number 8 last December.
Okay.
I got marathon number 7 last February. I did it with on the heels of a 10K, a 60-day deliberate discomfort challenge with my friends over at Mission 60, and so the doctor said, "How about you give your body a rest and just call it one marathon this year?" And I said, "Okay."
Yeah.
So in the year of rest, I gained weight. I feel
Yeah.
horrible. I feel sicker than it's like I don't think that was made for me. Like I think I am made to do
Yeah.
hard things, and
Let's
so
do it.
marathon number 8 will be within the year.
That's it. I've several years back, I don't know how, maybe 15 years back, my wife and I, we really switched more to we really got processed foods out of our life. Processed wheats,
Correct.
processed sugars, processed oils, and really went to a more whole food diet. And it really changed everything. And so I'm very cognizant about, inflammation in the body. And I really don't I take nothing. I don't even take, I rarely even taken a leave. I take no pharmaceuticals. I am very anti-pharmaceutical because I think I just think they change you in ways that are not healthy. And I think
Right.
the vast majority of pharmaceuticals, they don't really cure anything. They just kind of, mask a symptom. And so I'm very much about, the holistic living, living that the
Right.
life holistically. And I guess a long way of saying, the food we put into us needs to be the food's our medicine. I absolutely believe that food is our medicine. And, a lot of things that happen to us are the result of inflammation. And, yes, did my legs and everything get inflamed? Absolutely. But there's ways you can combat that. I have,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's definitely ways you can combat that. I've too have taken a little bit of a break from running. I shared with you. I've taken a little bit of a break. I'm trying to get back into it. I've got a half marathon on the schedule right now. That's not till right before Thanksgiving, and then I have another half marathon after the new year. And in between that
Right.
time, my wife and I we're going overseas to Australia and New Zealand. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get any training done during that, but I'll figure it out. I'll get it figured out.
Right.
But
Right.
we'll see. But some people have asked me, well, how could especially I ran my first one at age 60. How could you run a marathon? Well, you know what? It's very simple. And I figured it out pretty early. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other until you get to the finish line. That's the best advice I can
So,
give as far how to run a marathon. So
yeah, I agree. It's when I train well, I do well. When I don't train well, I do less well. But I've got
yeah,
small goals. Finish, don't die, don't injure yourself, and
yeah,
be healthy enough to do it again. And here's the weird thing: people cry, they laugh. They're like, "How did you lose 100 pounds in a year?" And I said, keto and intermittent fasting. And as it turns out, just the intermittent fasting is wildly successful.
yeah,
And they're like, "What?" And I said, "I eat at 5 o'clock every day. I don't eat anything else." They're like, "Why?" And I said, "1, because I'm in ketosis, I'm burning fat for fuel with my own natural body fat, so I don't
yeah.
get hungry." And I said, "It's very effective." And they're like, I think I'd be weak." I said, "Well, I'll tell you what." I said, "I ran 7 marathons not eating. You explain it. I climbed Mount Fuji, no food. You explain it.
Mhm.
So if you've got
Yeah,
another explanation, I'm open to hearing it. I'm just telling you what my
yeah,
success has been. Do what you what you want there, but that's how I
yeah.
have far more
My wife is
energy."
a big my wife is a big proponent of intermittent fasting. I do it,
Yes.
I don't necessarily do it. I have coffee in the morning, but I put butter and coconut oil in my coffee. So it fills me up to get to about 1 o'clock. And that's probably 12:30, 1 o'clock. That's when I eat my first meal. Um, and so she's a big proponent of intermittent fasting. I try not to eat anything past 7 o'clock at night. I just try and be done. Um, if I
Right.
want to have dessert, I make sure I get it in before 7 o'clock. Like I had some cake last night. She's like, "Why are you eating it so early?" I'm like, "I just got to get it in before 7 o'clock."
My
No,
window
I just don't want to eat.
closes and I don't get another chance.
Yeah, and I've heard the power of just total fasting, a 72-hour water only fast, and you get past. I think it's the first 36 hours, and that's when your body really goes through a cleanse. And
Yeah.
I, I know I could do it. Now you say running without eating. I know this. When I was doing my training for that marathon, there were a couple days I'd do some long runs, and I didn't fuel up before, and I hit a wall about halfway through. So now when I have those big runs that I have to do, I eat a peanut butter and banana sandwich, and that gets me to the end.
Right.
I just need that little burst of energy to get me through there. So
Well, I actually I think it stems from I made keto and intermittent fasting the way my body operates. It's how it functions now.
yeah.
I just changed my how my body. Okay, here's the new, and
Hmm.
did it for 5 years. And people are like, "How did you keep 100 pounds off?" Well, until last year when I stopped running, and we had some trauma in our life, and I used food as a coping mechanism for sure. So it's not
Yeah.
just I stopped running; it's other things as
Yeah.
well. But it's how your body changes how it functions and operates. And I truly believe like there's a reason our capability to store fat is unlimited and our reason to
Hmm.
store carbs is 3 to 5 hours. Like there's a reason for that, you know?
Yeah.
So
Right.
and I love not being hungry. I love it. Just there's the um
Yeah.
I eat
I've gone
food
through
in
the
the evening. Food
Yeah,
coma.
I've
I'm
gone through the
over. I'm done.
yeah, food coma. I've definitely I went through those times of stress eating during COVID lockdowns. I kind of developed a real love affair for Stacy's pita chip and hummus. And I was getting the big Costco size bags of Stacy's pita chips, and I was going through them in about 3 days. And I just remember
Oh,
I took my daughter and I went for a hike in May, and I was just wearing a t-shirt, and she took a picture of me, and I looked at it, I'm like, good grief. It's
No
like,
more pita
I
chips
did
for
something.
me.
I did
Yeah,
something wrong
yeah,
here. So yeah. So I
yeah.
got that weight off quick. So I got
Well,
that weight
that's
off
one way
quick.
to cope. I think that COVID year was the year I ran 3 marathons, and so that was
But
how I coped.
yeah. Yeah, I coped with Stacy's pita chips. Yeah, and also the other thing I coped with was a little bit of whiskey, which kind of got me launching into the Virtual Friday Whiskey Hour. You know what? That's when I really started getting a taste for whiskey was during COVID. So I'm not going to lie to that because if you remember, I don't know what it's like in Arkansas. I was in Ohio at that time. The one thing that didn't close for about 8 weeks were the liquor stores. Those remained open. And I think that was purposeful and intentional. So
Yes,
I
yes.
created quite the little whiskey stash by the end of COVID. So
I'm surprised you had any left. I mean, man, that is a really
yeah, yeah,
phenomenal coping
yeah.
mechanism there. So,
Yes, I think a lot of people were coping that way. So I think a lot of people were coping that way. So yeah, so I mean, is there any message you have for those, veterans that are out there maybe trying to figure out what they want to do next and how, they can, take their abilities. Maybe they've gotten out of the service and are just kind of in a job that they don't feel fulfilled. And what would be your message to them?
oh, my, um, call me first off, and don't give up. Know
Mhm,
that who you are and have become in the military is not the end of your story.
right.
There's a whole long life of who are you. I will tell
Mhm,
you that finding my identity in Christ has been the single greatest freedom I've ever received.
mhm.
Right? Just
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
what others expect of me matters not at all, but what my God
Yeah.
expects of me is huge. And since He made me imperfect, He's not expecting perfection, and that really releases me a lot. Now I've
Yeah.
tried for it, yeah. Like I'm a picky perfectionist. I wanted to everything to excellence. I want to be exceptional in all I do. But when I fail,
Yeah.
and we always do, don't take it so
We
hard.
always
Show
do.
yourself some
Yeah.
grace, right?
Yeah.
And
That's right.
hopefully you have people in your life
Yeah.
showing you some grace too.
Yeah, and we that's right. The toughest person to show grace and forgiveness usually is ourselves, because a lot of times it's
Yeah.
we're so hard on ourselves we can't forgive, what we've done. And so, as far as I mean, anybody that, I mean, they could have been combat arms veteran, anybody, whatever, regardless of what their position was when they were in the service, they have the ability to um, learn what it needs to be a cybersecurity professional.
Yes, yes. I mean, just the number one thing people don't understand is like, well, I did this job, so it doesn't translate to cyber, right? And the number one thing that people miss out on veterans is if when I'm hiring somebody, I want one thing. I I want someone who is teachable, right? I don't
Right.
care what you've done, your capabilities. If you're coachable and teachable, you can do anything you want to do. And if you
Hmm.
have a great passion to defend the nation and for whatever reason you're not in a position where you can anymore, find a new way and learn how, right? Get after it. And
Yeah.
don't expect overnight success. Take yourself a little at a time.
Yeah. It
Imperfect
takes time.
action,
It,
a little
it
bit every
takes
day.
time. That's right. It takes time. It's the overnight success. That is such even if people are able to have overnight success, it's never lasting. Um, we live in a microwave society, and I'm a bit of a foodie, and I love, a fine gourmet meal. There's no
Right.
gourmet meal that has ever been prepared in a microwave. One of my favorite dishes to
Yeah.
eat is ossobuco. And that thing, I don't know how long it takes. It takes hours to prepare that. And so, yeah, it's just things just take time. And, you
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
you can't expect to be successful the first time out. And if you are,
Right.
great. If you aren't, then that's just, part of the progress. You have to continue to push forward, and just find it within yourself to push forward.
I'd even
Oh,
say listen to other people who've been there. One of
yeah.
my friends, former Navy SEAL commander John McCaskill, he had challenges. He's really open about those challenges. and how he
Yeah.
overcame them through mindfulness.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
another one of my friends,
he's got the
yeah,
men for mindfulness is it? Men for
men
mindfulness
talking
podcast.
mindfulness. Yes,
Men
yes,
talking mindfulness. That's it. That's
yeah,
it.
yes,
I've
yes.
watched some of the episodes. Yes, I've watched some of the
He
episodes.
he and he and Will are, man, they're fantastic, and it's for men, but I'm telling you, it helps women too. And then one of my
Yeah.
sisters in arms, Dr. Teresa Larson. I read her book called Warrior, and I tell you, I felt like I had never been so completely understood until I read that book. And believe it or not, women veterans can be received a little differently, right?
Okay.
Direct is already kind of not something women should be. And then
Yeah.
coming from a military background, it just kind of amplifies it. We're bold and bodacious and tend to say what we think and loving kindness, mind you, but
Right.
nevertheless. And so her book Warrior, I read that and I said, I have never felt so understood. Like I get it, right? And it took some time, and so that grace that maybe you didn't get from other people, find other people who have
Hmm.
been there. We look kind of weird out here, in the corporate America kind of thing. I've had people be offended because I said good morning beautiful. I've had people be offended because don't tell anybody that you're a veteran, you may trigger them, and just
Yeah.
other phenomenally asinine stories of I don't get
Yeah.
you. You know what? You don't have to get me. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm just going to love you
Yep.
where you are, whether you get it or not. And so
Yeah.
I think that other veterans need to hear that you look a little
Yeah.
different
We
intentionally,
do.
and it's a good
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
It is. It is. Yeah, and yeah, you kind of said a lot there, but yeah, we're in a victim mindset right now, and I think the tide is turning on that. I think the
Oh
whole
Lord, I
victim
hope so.
mentality, the people are just like
Right.
enough is enough. I mean, enough is enough. Grow up here, will you? And it's good to see there's definitely some pushback coming. So, but
Right. Right.
that's another
A little
conversation. That's another
resiliency.
conversation for another day. So, what's that?
I said a little resiliency goes a long way.
Resiliency. It does
Yes.
go a long way. Well, Cindy, we're up against it right now. I have enjoyed this conversation. I hope you've enjoyed it too. So yes,
Thank
if you're a
you.
veteran and you're looking for what your next option is, Cindy's the person you need to reach out to. She will show you what it's about to continue in that, serving your country in a different way, but an equally as important way. I think we both can agree with that. That it's just not the men and women at the front lines. The front lines have definitely changed, and so
Yes.
you certainly offer an
Yes.
opportunity for people to do that. But Cindy, I
Yes.
hope you enjoyed this conversation. I hope you enjoyed this.
I have. Thank you so much for including me. I really appreciate it. I was shocked. I'm like, well, okay. I don't, I speak a lot at different conferences and such. Vets 24 in Orlando is the next one. But I don't think I've ever had a live
You're going to be in Orlando
conversation.
now. When are you going to be in Orlando?
The 20th through the 23rd, the Vets 24 conference is the largest concentration of veteran owned businesses around the globe, I believe. So
20th, 23rd of what?
hosted May. Sorry, it's like next week.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So it's coming
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Okay.
And it's
All right.
hosted by the National Veteran Small Business Coalition, a phenomenal
I'm
veteran
gonna have to
living
reach out to you because
organization.
I'm a 2 hour drive from Orlando. I may have to reach out to you and get a little more information
Do
on that.
it, do it. You'll love it,
Yes, I
man. It's a
will. I
phenomenal
will. I
event.
will. I will. I will.
Good deal.
So, but hey, no, I have really enjoyed this conversation. I've really enjoyed this. And I hope everybody out there enjoyed it as well. Let's make this a great day. Next Imperfect Action live stream will be next Wednesday and this Friday again. It's the Virtual Friday Whiskey Hour. Tomorrow I'll be appearing at the Polarizing Network. But regardless, let's make this a great day. Peace out.
Thanks, Rob.